So good morning. Yes, I'm going to give you some information on FGBC. We're going to talk about the plans you have. We're going to talk about the certification requirements as well as the process to achieve it. If you have questions, you are absolutely welcome to either hold them till the end or put them in the chat. That's completely up to you. I can tell you that I don't monitor the chat as I'm speaking, but I'll pull it up once we close out the presentation. So with that, just so you know who I am, I've been doing green building certifications and construction for about 25 years now. We've used all the different programs that are out there. We serve on several of the boards. Although I'm an engineer by trade, I also have a contractor's license in Florida. I'm very much boots on the ground. So hopefully you'll find this information as relevant as possible. I technically own Trifecta Construction Solutions. That is my company. Florida Green Building Coalition contracts my company to run the back of house operations, meaning every certification that you guys do will cross my desk. So I am their third-party reviewer, which makes this a third-party certification program. The Florida Green Building Coalition has been around since 2000. It has a bunch of hands in the mix, so to speak, but it's probably one of the most, I'd say, boots on the ground certification programs. We don't just sit in an office and make things up. We actually are in the field doing things. So again, should be fairly relevant. They are endorsed by Florida Legislature, League of Cities, League of Mayors, and the Florida Home Builders Association. So just so you know, this program has been vetted for quite a while. If you at all are familiar with green building certification, you likely have heard of LEED, which is the U.S. Green Building Council certification program. It is we'll call it the Kleenex of facial tissues or the Coke of colas. Most people have heard the brand LEED. Our challenge, of course, one is that they're expensive, and two, they are not climate specific. So they've done about 2,700 Florida projects, where the Florida Green Building Coalition has done over 27,000. So although it is a brand that a lot of people recognize, it's not the dominant program in Florida. Two other programs you may be familiar with are the NGBS, which is the National Green Building Standard, which is the National Association of Home Builders version of a green certification, and Green Globes. Again, they're all great programs, but Florida is the one that is very climate specific and the leading certification organization in the state, which is why DEO selected them. The FGBC does residential, so single family, multifamily, low rise residential, commercial buildings. They do mid-rise residential. We do high-rise residential, and we also do land developments. So that horizontal piece of the pie, so to speak, with respect to development and construction. So all of these projects are projects we've done. So again, we're very, very familiar with the program. So I'm not sure if this is the section of your contract for the Michael program. This was the section of the contract for the Irma program. So that may vary, but it is part of the requirements, because when we do get government money, we tend to be tied to some kind of third-party certification program. As you may or may not know, we had about 60,000 homes damaged or destroyed by Michael. And if you're familiar with the area, you're familiar with Tyndall. And Tyndall, just so you know, had 100% of their assets damaged or destroyed. So just to put this into perspective, again, a very, very severe storm for the area. I don't want to say good news, because it's not necessarily good news, but the good news about the Michael storm is that the damage is very concentrated. So unlike Irma, where literally the entire peninsula of the state was impacted, and so contractors were dealing with houses from the Keys to Jacksonville, the majority of this work is concentrated in 5 counties. Yes, there are a few in some of the surrounding counties, but the majority is in 5 counties. So from a logistic standpoint, that's beneficial for you guys. Looking at green building in general, we use the term both as a noun and a verb. So green building is this physical structure we end up with at the end of a process. And what you see here is a fire station, single family home, multifamily, high rise, and this at the bottom right are habitat homes. So we do affordable housing all the time with this program. In addition to being that physical structure, it's all of the things that you do during the process of building the home that makes it more what I'll call resource efficient. And that could be energy efficient, it could be water efficient, it could be using fewer or appropriate materials, resources, using healthy interiors. So all of those things you do ultimately result in that green building at the end of the process. The way FGBC is organized is it's organized into 8 different categories. You have to achieve points or credits within each category. You achieve enough of those and you achieve certification. So just as a general overview, when we look at how Florida uses energy in the state, so our homes are about 42% heating and cooling. You'll actually get maybe up to 4 to 8% in the panhandle heating down. I'm in Southwest Florida right now. I haven't used heat for about 8 years. So most of that piece of the pie for me is pretty much cooling. Hot water, appliances, lighting. So all of those contribute to our energy load in a house. When we look at how that's determined or how the home's performance from an energy perspective is determined, we look at things like the building envelope. So we're looking at the walls, the ceiling, anything that separates us from the outside space. And then we're also looking at the equipment. So those things go into this very cryptic software called Energy Gauge USA. And when I say cryptic, I mean, this is what it looks like. It looks like we're back in the 90s or in the 19s, as my kids would call them. Doing some software, but this ultimately generates a report that you all have come to love, because this word pass means you've passed Florida Energy Code and you can pull your permit. So the DEO has done these calculations in advance. So we do know every design we have passes code. It performs very well. Normally your HVAC sub will do this for you. So they usually use this software. They're going to input different things about the building envelope and equipment into the software. This also will generate the manual J calculations or the sizing. Again, DEO has done that. Not to say that your HVAC sub, again, isn't going to do this for you. This process also can be done by the Florida Green Building Coalition. So you ultimately are going to engage a certifying agent, and they're going to help you through this process. That certifying agent many times also is an energy rater, and they will ultimately provide you with that code compliance envelope leakage test so you can get your CO, and they'll do all the back of house work from an energy perspective and paperwork perspective to achieve your certifications. So what you need to know about this report, again, is we have them. So you are provided, or we will provide those for you. Your HVAC sub may do them. But again, if you can get any deduct from your HVAC sub because you're going to have the certifying agent do it, they have to do it anyway. So what this software also does for us, it provides us with what's called a HERS score. So this is the home energy rating system, and this HERS score basically tells us how well the building performs. And when you get down here to a 0 on this scale, you're at a 0 energy home. And so typical homes, if you look at these older houses here, were very, very high on this HERS scale. Before 1979, Florida did not have an energy code. So you see very high numbers there. During the boom, we were in the 100-ish range. Florida code now is pushing below an 80. So where we've landed the houses in our baselines for you is we're using a number assumed at 65. And so what we found with the IRMA houses is their HERS, their preliminary numbers, were anywhere from about 53 to 59. And so to give you guys a little bit of wiggle room or buffer in your performance in the field, I assumed a 65. So again, the higher is the worst performing house. The lower you go on this scale, the better. So again, a 65 is fairly conservative. We have tested one house, and that one house that is a rebuild that was complete for IRMA, is still the only completed house. That house performed at a 49. So again, the lower you go, the better. Ultimately, you just need to be certified. That house ended up being gold because of the performance. So just know that, don't be worried that this is going to be challenging or that you're not going to be able to achieve certification. And I say that because if you look here at Lennar, and not to, bust on Lennar, but they're not necessarily known as the absolute most progressive energy efficient builder on the planet. And they're scoring very nicely down in the low 60s. So this is, again, standard construction. This would likely, because it's in Sarasota, be block versus stick frame. But again, same performance, nice rating. And this is what you would get at the end of the day with your confirmed HERS rating, which is what this is. They have a unique registration number, which we do also track. With respect to water, a lot of it goes outside. Again, we know that's beyond your scope for these projects. So the only thing that we've clearly specified is when you are laying sod to stabilize the soil, we're going to dictate that species. We give you 3 different options so that we know it's drought tolerant. Inside, we're going to spec all low flow. So we use a lot in the shower and bath, toilets, faucets, laundry. So everything we spec is either low flow or Energy Star. One thing you can look for that makes it easy is looking for this WaterSense logo. If you find things with WaterSense, it really is going to mean you meet the low flow criteria. So if that's an easier look for you than looking at specific gallon per minute or gallon per flush flow rates, by all means, go after the WaterSense logo. Now, we always hear, or we used to always hear, that low flow toilets don't work. You have to flush them twice. You're not really saving water. And so because that was an issue originally, when we just started reducing the quantity of water versus redesigning the toilet, eventually people figured out that they had to redesign the toilet. And then we, of course, created a test to make sure these toilets worked. And so the only kind of PC reference I can give you for this test is really Caddyshack. So if you remember the pool scene from Caddyshack, where we have this, we'll call it a projectile. So in order to test these toilets, there is an ASTM standard. They actually make man-made ASTM specified projectiles, and they test these toilets to make sure they work. The toilets that don't flush with a single flush are down here in this poor performing area. A WaterSense toilet is going to land in acceptable. FGBC wants you in this 600 range. I can go right now to Home Depot or Lowe's. I can find a low flow 1000 rated toilet for under $100. So again, don't feel like because we're giving you these specific requirements that we're increasing cost. There are very, very affordable options out there that are low flow and high performing. With respect to health, we want to look inside and we want to keep a healthy indoor environment. We do have issues with infiltration. So a lot of that cooling load that you saw, the 42% cooling load, comes from infiltration. And so whenever something goes under negative pressure in our house, which would be we're running the kitchen exhaust or we're running the laundry dryer and it's exhausting to the outside, we're temporarily putting that house under negative pressure, and all things thermodynamically like to be neutral. So your house is going to make up that air from somewhere, and it usually pulls it in from cracks and crevices. And as you know, in Florida, we have very, very hot attics. And so if we start pulling in air from that attic space to neutralize, we're just pulling in hot, humid air. We'll also pull it in through outlet covers and things like that. So we want to pay close attention to where we have holes in our structure and seal those up best as possible, because a 1 inch by 1 inch hole over a cooling season can pull in over 18 gallons of water. So that is a very, very small hole compared to the cumulative holes that we actually have in most units. When you look at water, 2 big issues for us: we get it in bulk, and then obviously we get it as ambient moisture through humidity. So we just want to pay close attention to that. You'll see downspouts, you'll see discharge distances probably greater than you normally see. We want to keep that water off the foundation. I know most of these are elevated, but again, we have termites, we have tons of issues, and water is really not our friend when it comes to buildings. When it comes to materials, we want to look at low off-gassing materials. So I know you can't really read this because I can barely read it, but the words right here say formaldehyde free. So formaldehyde free insulation, pretty much standard practice. Green Guard certification. This is a logo you'll also find on the side of the insulation packages. We do want some floor score or Carpet and Reg Institute certified carpets. For the last 10, 15 years, I have not seen a single carpet that has not complied with this. So from a floor score perspective and your resilient flooring, I went ahead and I pulled their website. There's over 14,000, and I know you can't see those numbers, but over 14,000 products that qualify. So again, should not be a hard challenge to find these materials. Looking at filters, so this became kind of a more interesting thing to most people once COVID hit. The higher the MERV rating, so filters have what's called a minimum efficiency rating value. The higher that number, the more particles they collect and the smaller the particle sizes they collect. So where we've landed you guys for these projects is at a MERV 8. So below MERV 8, the MERVs 1 through 7, I just jokingly usually say you can throw a golf ball through them. It's just your standard filter that comes out of the box with your air handler unit. If we go up to a MERV 8, we get some additional collection above and beyond just your typical lint and household dust. So we're starting to get dust mites, we're starting to get mold spores. We're not getting COVID. In order to capture the COVID particle that is on a droplet of spit, you need to go up to a MERV 13. However, if you go up to a MERV 13, you're going to create a pressure drop on your air conditioner and you're going to freeze up your condensing unit. So we're keeping you at this MERV 8 because it's a higher quality filter, but again, we're not going to create a pressure drop that freezes up your condensing unit. So if you think about breathing through a pillow, which would be a MERV 13, versus breathing through a sheet, which would be a MERV 8, that's the difference of what you're doing to your air conditioning system. Can you go to a MERV 8 or a MERV 13? Absolutely, but you need to get your HVAC guy involved. You're going to have to adjust your system so that, again, your system can handle the pressure drop. So MERV 8s are what you'll find on the drawings. Natural disasters. So again, we're here because of this, but we have all sorts of them. You name it, we have it in Florida. So whether it's termites or lightning or hurricanes or wildfires, we have all of the above. So we like to keep you busy with that. So again, main categories here. What we have done for you in this program is we have customized a checklist for you. And so I will show you where to access that checklist and what it looks like in the remainder of this presentation. But as you can see here in this little screenshot, there are things that are highlighted green and things that are highlighted yellow. I have gone ahead and hidden every row that is not applicable to you. So this program, which is normally 450 points, we've streamlined down to less than 100 so that you don't have to look at a bunch of pages and a bunch of line items that aren't relevant to you. So ideally, you'll pull your plans, whatever you're building, you'll take a look at them. Everything is on the plans. So if you see something in green on this checklist, it's on the drawings. So I didn't claim a single point towards certification that wasn't on the drawings. If it's something in yellow, it is plan or site specific. So meaning you may achieve more points than the green because your site may be conducive to them. But since I don't know where your projects are, I just highlighted them in yellow. And then I usually gave you some little notes to let you know what to look for. Ideally, you'll look at this checklist. If not, you're going to call a certifying agent and they'll know exactly what to do with this checklist. But again, everything you need is on your drawings. Ideally, that certifying agent is going to ask you for some documentation. Usually it's going to be cut sheets on the products that you're installing in the unit. They will do a midpoint inspection. This has to be pre-drywall. So there are things that we have to document that we cannot see once drywall is up. So that's why we need this midpoint inspection. At the end of construction, ultimately, we will have an energy rater, do a blower door test, do a duct blaster test. Those two things lead to your confirmed HERS. They can also provide you with that envelope leakage test report so that you can get your certificate of occupancy. The confirmed HERS is then added to the Florida Green Building Coalition package that's submitted to our organization, crosses my desk, you achieve certification. So as an example, again, I pulled the largest plan because by default, the larger the plan, the harder it is to certify, because larger buildings tend to be less efficient than small buildings. So again, I did your worst case scenario. I pulled the 4-bedroom plans in this instance, and you can see little green highlights all throughout the plan. So I am going to make this plan available to you, although you may not be building a 4-bedroom unit. The notes are identical on the plans. So if you pull this set of drawings down and you see anything highlighted, you know on your page G101, you're going to find that same note. So in this instance here, this note 26 talks about your Energy Star appliances. And it also talks about the fact that your supply hoses need to be reinforced armored PEX or metal. That directly corresponds to this line item, this credit line item here, where you need it to use an armored PEX or metal hose, except copper. So note the language is identical. And I've also cross-referenced it for you to tell you, look, it's on page G101 and it's note 26. So again, whether you're looking at the plans or you're looking at the checklist, hopefully these items are blatantly obvious to you. I make this note here about version 11 versus version 12 because the IRMA folks are using version 11. So if you happen to be working on both, just note that there are some differences. So for example, in version 11, you were actually claiming points for Energy Star appliances, where in version 12, you're not getting points for those because they are in your HERS score. So that HERS software has been modified now to incorporate the efficiency of those appliances into the overall performance of the building. So this revision captures that change in the HERS. So just know it didn't get harder, it's just slightly different. So we're going to send you to the Florida Green Building Coalition webpage, which is floridagreenbuilding.org. On that main webpage, you're going to scroll down and ultimately you're going to see a line where it says click here for DOE projects, or sorry, DEO projects. And on there, we're going to give you access again to this FGBC checklist. So version 12, it'll say Michael version 12, so it'll be obvious. We're going to give you access to the highlighted plans. This video we're going to post up there as well. So if you're missing something or bored at night and can't sleep, feel free to rewatch it. And a list of approved certifying agents. Now, what I will say about the approved certifying agents is that don't be, I don't know, challenged or distraught because you don't see a bunch of them in Gulf County or Bay County. There are groups here that work statewide. Their corporate headquarters may not be there, and I'm going to refer you to one specifically. Likely, when you look at this list, the closest person you're going to see will be Tallahassee. I actually have pictures of those guys in this presentation. But again, I'll point out who works statewide and has the capacity to handle this kind of project. So don't worry about that too much. So when you look at the energy portion of the checklist, again, you'll see things highlighted in green. Again, I've called out where they are. This happens to be on M, page 1.01. All the plans here comply with this roof porch criteria. So again, you'll see in this instance, light colored exterior paint. Well, I have no idea what color you're painting the outside of these houses. So you may or may not comply. Again, your certifying agent will know to help you. So again, it's highlighted, everything's highlighted on the plan. So for example, we're going to seal all of our ductwork with mastic, not just tape. We're going to pay attention to our duct leakage. Here's a picture of what mastic on ductwork looks like. It's not very pretty, but it does work very well because the adhesive on this tape, after about 18 months months stops being very sticky. So we start losing a lot of our AC delivery because, again, that tape up in a 140-degree attic doesn't stay sticky for very long. Water, you'll see all of the low flow items are called out here on the different plumbing pages or architectural pages, and we do specify Bahia, Zoysia, or Bermuda, and it is specifically, again, on those drawings, and it is highlighted in green if you go ahead and pull down the set that we'll post on the FGBC website. Again, we have no idea what lot you're picking. So in this one category, we have nothing specified. However, if you're close to mass transit, if you're close to open space, green open space, if you're on a lot that already has infrastructure, meaning sewer, water, electric, that's already at the lot, you'll be able to claim these points. So again, there are additional points available to you that may be site specific. Some things like erosion control plans, that's going to be required by your local jurisdiction or your local municipality. So you'll see those on there. Again, your certifying agent can draft one if you don't have a written plan. FGBC Health. So again, all of those low VOC and healthy interior items are on the drawings here. For example, the VOC limits, VOCs are volatile organic compounds. Ultimately, it basically is that new car smell, or volatile organic compounds, or that new paint. Again, it's been years since I have seen an interior paint that did not comply with these VOC limits. In the last, I'd say, decade, the one item that I have seen break the bank, so to speak, on these VOC limits was a concrete sealer. It was a project, a high-rise in Miami that wanted sealed concrete floors, and they just had, it was something like 600 grams per liter versus any of these low numbers. So again, from what you guys are doing in these projects, you shouldn't run into any issues with the VOC limits on any of your products. We also are looking for no added urea formaldehyde in the cabinetry. So if you think back to, I don't even remember which storm it was, but it was the FEMA trailer issue where we had really bad drywall and off-gassing. It ended up being a urea formaldehyde that was in that drywall that caused the problem. So urea formaldehyde really has not been used for years. We do use a product called phenol formaldehyde, which is allowed, but not the urea formaldehyde. So just pay attention to that. Again, it's been a while since I've seen any type of particle boards or cabinetry with that issue. That being said, I know we're having issues finding glues. So it's not that we're out of wood if you're having a challenge finding plywoods and any kind of particle boards. It's that we're running into an issue with the resins and the glues to make those products. So just be aware of that. You'll see also Energy Star on this casework note as well. Just some more examples of what you'll see on the drawings. You can see here your MERV 8 filter, SEER 16, again, sealing your ductwork. So just more notes for your reading pleasure. From a material standpoint, again, depends on the source for a lot of these items, but you'll see anything in green, again, designed into those plans. Disaster mitigation, so of course, impact glazing. Your roof shingles are a 30-year shingle that's called out with the Miami approval, so they will comply with this credit. We are requiring a very good quality window from an energy performance standpoint, so Energy Star windows with a 0.4 U factor and a solar heat gain coefficient of 0.25. So pay attention to that as well, and note the discharge distance. So normally we'll go out 24 inches. We don't necessarily go out 36. So just pay attention to that. And then your certifying agent will help you with some of these on the back end. You will achieve credits here because you have small houses. So again, this is why I always use the largest house to do my baselines, because the smaller you go, the more points you get. So ultimately, just assuming absolute worst case scenario, this house came out as 108 points. You need 100 for certification. So this landed in the bronze range. At midpoint inspection, again, that certifying agent is looking for things like insulated pipes, protecting your ductwork, making sure that there's mastic on the ducts. We're also looking for holes. So if I'm standing inside the house and I see daylight coming in, I'm going to start wanting to see you seal that with something. And whether it's a spray expanding foam or a caulk, this is what contributes to that infiltration issue. This is what contributes to you possibly not passing code with respect to getting your CO because your air changes are too high, because we have too many points of infiltration. So at midpoint, again, pre-drywall, we'll identify these, we'll seal them up. This is an example of a midpoint inspection, and I happen to be looking down this wall and I can see daylight here. So I kind of zoomed in so you guys could see it. It was big enough I could put my pen through it. So of course, that's not going to perform well when it comes to infiltration. And so here I could also see daylight up here. And so we go in and we ask them to, do something, solve this problem. And whether it's a better insulation install or adding some additional insulation, which is what they did, anything to, again, help improve the envelope. Here you can see some good and some bad insulation installs. This is not optimal. So for insulation to work well, it needs to be uniform, not compressed, not missing, so to speak. I don't believe you have any drop soffits, but we always miss behind the drop soffit and the tubs. So those are places that we will also look for. So just pay attention to that insulation install. Final inspection, at this point, they will do the blower door test. So there are a couple of tricks. Caulk, gaskets, and weather stripping are absolutely our friends if we happen to be too leaky. Everything has to be installed. So medicine cabinets, doors, appliances, we have to be complete. We can do the blower door during punch, but we have to make sure that no one tries to open a door or a window or steps on our hoses during the process. It really is a 15 to 30 minute test if we don't have any issues. If we do have issues, again, we'll go through with theatrical smoke, we'll find the leaks, and we'll go ahead and seal those up and retest. So again, just what the setup looks like, and then this is what the duct blaster looks like. So they're also testing the ducts for leakage. So they're looking for leakage into unconditioned space versus conditioned space. And since our ducts are running through that attic, they're running in unconditioned space. So what you're going to get at the end of this process is you'll get your envelope leakage test report. Pretty much every municipality out there has thrown their own logo on something similar to this. Pass or fail, it's basically your air changes per hour, your ACH 50. It has to be between 3 and 7. So below 3, your house is too tight. They're going to say, oh, you need mechanical ventilation. Above 7, they're going to say it's too leaky. You don't pass code. So there's this sweet spot between 3 and 7. Again, if there's an issue in the field, your rater will help you get where you need to be. Confirmed HERS, this again is what it looks like. It's the same Lennar confirmed HERS. If you happen to use a certifying agent called SkyTech, who I'm probably going to direct you towards, not that I can tell you who to use, but I know these guys will give you the best price and work in the area. You'll get a certificate that looks like this. Ultimately, from us, the Florida Green Building Coalition, you will get a certificate that looks like this. This is that first IRMA house, the first IRMA rebuild that was certified. As I mentioned, it landed in the gold range. So if you go to the homepage of the Florida Green Building Coalition and you scroll down, when you scroll down, you will see the DEO logo and you'll see a Visit Disaster Recovery resource page. Once you go to that resource page, we're going to now break this up into an IRMA section and a Michael section. So you're going to be able to pull an approved list of certifying agents. DEO version 11 would be for IRMA. You'll see a 12 up there for Michael, and I'm going to go ahead and name the files that so they're easier to identify. You will see a link to both the trainings, and then this is the IRMA prototype. I will upload the 4-bedroom Michael prototype. So again, we'll break this into the 2 sections so you don't get confused between the 2 different projects. So on there, you can click and download those resources. As I mentioned, all of those items are there for you. So the plans that actually have highlights on them, again, for your reference, will be up there. As I mentioned, this is one of the approved certifying agents. They can take you from soup to nuts. I've found that they're most cost competitive, and I know they work in the area. So I think that was the biggest challenge or concern that DEO had initially, was the quantity of certifying agents in the panhandle was very low. Again, the closest being Tallahassee. But these guys work statewide. They can, again, do your calcs for permit. They'll do all the inspections. And I know that they're giving you a good price. So with that, that is where we're going to end. You can absolutely reach out to CJ, is the name of the executive director at the Florida Green Building Coalition, if you have any questions. You can also reach out to me if you have any questions. Clearly, Kelly is available also at your disposal. So with that, I am going to end this.